Why IQ isn't enough.
Why do some brilliant people struggle in life, while others with average intelligence build extraordinary relationships, careers, and influence? Why do talented leaders collapse under pressure, while calm, emotionally balanced individuals quietly rise to the top? Why do some people react with anger and lose everything they worked for, while others stay composed and turn conflict into opportunity? For decades, we believed success depended on one thing: intelligence, high IQ, perfect grades, sharp analytical thinking. But reality tells a different story, because intelligence alone is not enough. The real difference lies in something far more powerful: emotional intelligence. For most of modern history, society measured intelligence through numbers, IQ tests, academic achievements, logical reasoning. People who scored high on these measures were expected to succeed in life, and those who didn't were often overlooked. But over time, psychologists began noticing something strange. Many people with exceptional IQs struggled with relationships. They struggled with leadership. They struggled with managing stress, conflict, and emotions. Meanwhile, others with average academic ability were thriving. They built strong friendships. They inspired teams. They handled pressure with calm confidence. This contradiction puzzled researchers. If intelligence predicted success, why were some of the smartest people failing? The answer emerged through the work of psychologist Daniel Goleman. His research revealed that traditional intelligence is only one part of the equation. The other part is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize emotions as they arise, to understand what those emotions mean, and most importantly, to manage them effectively, not only within yourself, but in the people around you. Because emotions influence almost every decision you make. They shape how you communicate. They affect how you respond to criticism. They determine whether you react impulsively or respond thoughtfully. In moments of pressure, emotion often overrides logic. Without emotional awareness, even the smartest minds can become unstable. Brilliant ideas collapse under stress. Careers are damaged by uncontrolled anger. Relationships break because emotions go unrecognized. But when emotional intelligence is developed, something powerful happens. People gain control over their reactions. They understand others more deeply. They navigate conflict more wisely. And suddenly, success becomes far more sustainable. Because in the real world, the ability to manage emotions often matters more than raw intelligence.
The emotional brain. Sometimes emotions take control before logic even has time to react. 1 second you're calm, the next second you're angry, embarrassed, defensive. And only later do you ask yourself, why did I react like that? The answer lies deep inside the brain. Inside every human brain exists a powerful emotional system, an ancient network designed for one primary purpose: survival. At the center of this system is a small but incredibly influential structure known as the amygdala. The amygdala acts like an emotional alarm system. Its job is to scan the environment constantly, searching for potential threats. When it detects danger, it reacts instantly, much faster than the logical part of the brain. Within milliseconds, the body begins preparing for action. Your heart rate increases, adrenaline floods the bloodstream, muscles tighten, breathing becomes faster. The body shifts into what scientists call fight or flight mode. This reaction was essential for early humans. Thousands of years ago, hesitation could mean death. If a predator appeared, there was no time to analyze the situation logically. The brain had to react immediately. The amygdala ensured survival by triggering rapid emotional responses. But in the modern world, the threats we face are rarely physical.
Instead of predators, we encounter social and psychological triggers. A harsh comment from a colleague, a disagreement with a partner, a critical message from a boss, an embarrassing mistake in public. Even though these situations are not life-threatening, the emotional brain may still react as if they are. Suddenly, the amygdala takes control, and something fascinating happens. The logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and decision-making, temporarily loses influence. Psychologists refer to this moment as an emotional hijack. In an emotional hijack, emotions move faster than logic. Words are spoken before they are fully considered. Actions are taken before consequences are evaluated. Only later, when the emotional storm passes, does the rational mind return and ask, "Why did I say that? Why did I react like that?" This experience is universal. Everyone has felt the power of an emotional hijack. But emotional intelligence begins with recognizing when it happens. Because the moment you become aware of your emotional reaction, you create something extremely powerful, a small space, a pause between stimulus and response. Inside that pause, you regain control. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin responding consciously. And that simple shift is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Self-awareness. You cannot control an emotion you cannot recognize. Most people believe they understand their emotions, but in reality, they simply react to them without ever stopping to ask, "What exactly am I feeling right now?" And that single question can change everything. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to observe your own emotional state in real time, not hours later, not after the argument ends, but in the very moment emotions begin to rise. For many people, emotions move too quickly to notice. A comment is made, a mistake happens, a disagreement appears, and instantly the reaction begins. Anger, defensiveness, embarrassment, anxiety, but the mind rarely pauses long enough to identify the true emotion underneath. Instead, emotions are mislabeled. Someone feels irritation, but calls it anger. Someone feels insecurity, but expresses it as criticism. Someone feels fear, but disguises it as frustration. These emotional misunderstandings lead to reactions that seem confusing even to ourselves. Because when emotions remain unrecognized, they quietly control behavior. They shape tone of voice, body language, decisions, and relationships, all without conscious awareness. But when a person begins developing emotional awareness, something remarkable begins to happen. They start noticing patterns. They notice which situations consistently create stress. They notice which environments bring calm and focus. They begin identifying emotional triggers, certain comments that provoke defensiveness, certain situations that create anxiety, certain people who inspire confidence. Over time, these observations build emotional clarity, and emotional clarity creates something incredibly powerful: choice. Instead of reacting automatically, you begin responding deliberately. Instead of being controlled by emotion, you begin understanding it. And when emotions are understood, they stop being hidden forces. They become signals. Signals about what matters. Signals about boundaries. Signals about fears and motivations. Self-awareness does not eliminate emotions, but it transforms your relationship with them. Because once you can see an emotion clearly, you gain the ability to guide it, instead of letting it guide you. Self-regulation. Emotions are natural. Every human experiences them. anger, fear, excitement, frustration. But while emotions are automatic, your reactions are not. Because the true measure of emotional intelligence is not whether you feel emotions, it is how you respond to them. Many people misunderstand emotional intelligence. They assume emotionally intelligent individuals never feel anger, stress, or frustration, but that's not true. Emotionally intelligent people experience the same emotions as everyone else. The difference lies in what happens next. Self-regulation is the ability to pause before reacting. It is the skill of managing emotional impulses instead of allowing them to control behavior. Imagine someone criticizing your work. Your first emotional response might be irritation or defensiveness or even anger. These reactions appear instantly, but self-regulation introduces a powerful moment of pause. Instead of reacting immediately, you observe the emotion. You ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Why did that comment trigger me? That short pause changes everything because emotions move fast, but reflection slows them down. Without self-regulation, emotions often turn into destructive behavior. Anger becomes shouting, frustration becomes blame, stress becomes impulsive decisions, and in moments of emotional intensity, people often say things they later regret. They damage relationships, they create unnecessary conflict, they harm their reputation. But self-regulation allows individuals to redirect emotional energy. Instead of exploding in anger, they breathe, they think, they choose their words carefully. Instead of blaming others, they analyze the situation objectively. Instead of escalating conflict, they focus on resolution. This ability becomes especially important in high-pressure situations because pressure amplifies emotions. In difficult moments, people instinctively look toward leaders for stability. If leaders react emotionally, the entire environment becomes chaotic. But when leaders remain calm, they create a sense of control and confidence. This is why emotional stability is one of the most powerful leadership traits. The strongest leaders are not those who lack emotion. They are those who remain composed even when emotions run high. Because emotional control doesn't eliminate challenges, but it transforms how those challenges are handled. And in many situations, that difference determines success or failure. Motivation. External rewards motivate temporarily. Money, titles, recognition, applause. But these motivations fade quickly because the most powerful form of motivation does not come from the outside, it comes from within. And when motivation is internal, it can last a lifetime. Emotionally intelligent individuals possess a powerful internal engine, motivation. But this motivation is different from what most people expect. It is not driven solely by rewards, it is not dependent on praise, and it does not disappear when recognition fades. Instead, it comes from deeper sources: purpose, curiosity, and the desire for continuous improvement. People with strong emotional intelligence often pursue goals not just for results, but for the process itself. They enjoy learning, they enjoy growing, they enjoy solving difficult problems. This internal drive creates something incredibly valuable: persistence. Because when motivation is external, obstacles feel discouraging. A failed project feels like defeat. Criticism feels like rejection, and progress slows down. But when motivation is internal, the meaning of setbacks changes. Failure becomes information. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" emotionally intelligent individuals ask, "What can I learn from this?" Every mistake becomes feedback. Every challenge becomes a lesson. Every obstacle becomes a training ground. This mindset transforms how people experience difficulty. Instead of avoiding discomfort, they move toward it. They understand that growth rarely happens inside comfort zones. Learning requires struggle, progress requires effort, and improvement requires patience. This is why emotionally intelligent individuals often demonstrate remarkable resilience, not because life is easier for them, but because they interpret experiences differently. Where others see barriers, they see opportunities. Where others stop, they continue. And over time, that persistence compounds. Success rarely comes from a single moment of brilliance. It usually emerges from years of consistent effort, and emotional resilience makes that persistence possible. Because when motivation comes from within, progress does not depend on external approval. It depends on internal commitment. And that kind of motivation can carry someone through almost any challenge. Empathy. The most powerful social skill is understanding emotions that are not your own, not intelligence, not persuasion, not authority, but the ability to recognize what someone else is feeling, even when they never say it out loud. Because beneath every conversation, there are emotions shaping the interaction. And the people who can sense those emotions gain an extraordinary advantage in relationships. Empathy is the ability to recognize and understand the emotions of others. It is the bridge that connects one human experience to another. While self-awareness allows you to understand your own emotions, empathy allows you to step into someone else's emotional world. And often, emotions are communicated without words. People rarely say exactly what they feel. Instead, emotions appear through subtle signals, a slight change in tone of voice, a brief pause before answering a question, a facial expression that reveals discomfort, body language that shows tension or uncertainty. Emotionally intelligent individuals pay attention to these signals. They observe carefully. They listen beyond the surface of the conversation. They notice when someone appears unusually quiet. They detect when frustration is hidden behind polite words. They recognize enthusiasm when someone's voice becomes energized. These observations allow them to understand what others might be experiencing internally. And this awareness dramatically improves communication, because when people feel understood, their behavior changes. They become more open, they share their thoughts more honestly, they become more cooperative, and they become more willing to trust. Empathy creates emotional safety. In environments where empathy exists, people feel comfortable expressing ideas, admitting mistakes, sharing concerns. But in environments without empathy, communication becomes guarded. People hide their true thoughts. They protect themselves emotionally, and collaboration becomes difficult. This is why empathy is one of the most important leadership qualities. Leaders who understand emotions build stronger teams. They resolve conflicts more effectively. They inspire loyalty and commitment, because people are far more motivated when they feel genuinely understood. Empathy transforms relationships. Without empathy, interactions remain transactional, focused only on tasks, results, and outcomes. But with empathy, relationships become meaningful. They become human, and that human connection creates stronger collaboration, deeper trust, and lasting influence. Social skills. Success in life often depends on one powerful ability, the ability to manage relationships. Not just knowledge, not just talent, but the skill of interacting with people effectively. Because every career, every team, every organization depends on human relationships. And the people who understand those relationships often rise the fastest.
Emotional intelligence does not stop with understanding your own emotions. It extends outward into the social world, into conversations, teams, partnerships, and leadership. This outward expression of emotional intelligence appears through social skills. Social skills are the practical tools that allow people to navigate human interactions successfully. They include several important abilities: clear communication, the ability to express ideas in ways that others can understand, not through complexity, but through clarity. Another essential skill is conflict resolution. Disagreements are inevitable wherever people work together. Different opinions, different personalities, different priorities. But emotionally intelligent individuals do not see conflict as something to fear. They see it as something to manage. Instead of escalating tension, they calm the situation. Instead of choosing sides, they listen carefully to all perspectives. And perhaps most importantly, they understand group dynamics. In any team, subtle emotional currents are always present: unspoken frustrations, hidden disagreements, unrecognized contributions. Emotionally intelligent individuals are sensitive to these dynamics. They notice tension early before it grows into conflict. They address problems calmly before they damage relationships. This ability becomes especially important in leadership because leadership is not defined by authority. Anyone can hold a title, anyone can give instructions, but true leadership depends on emotional influence, the ability to inspire trust, the ability to motivate others, the ability to unite individuals toward a shared goal. And those abilities are built on emotional intelligence. Because when people feel respected, understood, and valued, they naturally become more cooperative, more committed, and more willing to contribute their best work. Emotional intelligence in leadership. The best leaders don't control people, they understand them. Because leadership is not simply about giving instructions, it is about influencing emotions, guiding behavior, and creating an environment where people perform at their best. Leadership without emotional intelligence often struggles to succeed. Many leaders possess technical expertise. They understand strategy. They know how to analyze problems and develop plans. But leadership is not purely analytical. At its core, leadership is emotional because every team operates within an emotional climate. People bring feelings into the workplace every day: stress, ambition, confidence, doubt. And the emotional tone of the leader influences the entire environment. When leaders panic during uncertainty, the team senses that anxiety. Confidence disappears. Decisions become rushed. Mistakes increase. But when leaders remain calm during challenges, they create stability. Their calmness spreads throughout the team. People begin to think clearly again. Solutions become easier to find. Emotionally intelligent leaders understand this powerful ripple effect. They recognize that their reactions influence everyone around them, so they manage their emotions carefully. They listen before speaking. They observe before reacting. They respond thoughtfully, even under pressure. Another important leadership trait is respect. Emotionally intelligent leaders create environments where people feel valued, where ideas are welcomed, where concerns can be expressed without fear. When employees feel heard, they become more engaged, more creative, more committed to the success of the team. These leaders also communicate with clarity. They explain expectations clearly. They provide constructive feedback. And when problems arise, they address them directly but respectfully. Because communication is not just about information, it is about connection. And connection builds trust. Trust is the foundation of influence. Without trust, leadership becomes fragile. People follow instructions only when necessary. But when trust exists,
People willingly support the leader's vision. They collaborate more effectively. They take initiative. They go beyond basic expectations. And over time, trust multiplies influence. This is why emotional intelligence has become one of the most valuable leadership skills in modern organizations, because the most effective leaders are not those who simply direct others. They are those who understand people deeply. And when leaders understand people, they unlock the true potential of the entire team.
Developing emotional intelligence. The good news? Emotional intelligence is not fixed. You are not born with a limited amount of it. And unlike many abilities people believe are permanent, emotional intelligence can be developed. With awareness, practice, and intention, anyone can strengthen this skill, and the transformation can change every area of life. For many years, intelligence was viewed as something static. People believed that IQ determined their capabilities. If someone was naturally intelligent, they would succeed. If not, their potential was limited. But emotional intelligence works very differently. It is not a fixed trait. It is a set of skills, and like any skill, it can improve with practice. The process begins with awareness, the ability to observe your emotions in real time. Most emotional reactions happen automatically. A stressful comment triggers irritation. An unexpected problem triggers anxiety. A disagreement triggers defensiveness. These reactions often occur so quickly that people barely notice them. But emotional intelligence begins when you slow down and pay attention. Instead of reacting instantly, you pause. You ask yourself a simple question. Why did I feel that way? What exactly triggered that emotional response? Was it the situation itself or the meaning your mind assigned to it? This moment of reflection is powerful because it introduces awareness into automatic reactions, and awareness creates choice. Another important step in developing emotional intelligence is practicing empathy. During conversations, many people focus primarily on what they want to say next, but emotionally intelligent individuals shift their attention. They focus on understanding. They listen carefully, not only to words, but also to tone of voice, facial expressions, and emotional context. This deeper listening improves communication dramatically because people feel respected when they are truly heard. Another essential skill is emotional regulation. This means creating space between stimulus and response. When something triggers a strong emotion, instead of reacting immediately, you pause, you breathe, you think. That small pause prevents impulsive reactions. It allows the logical brain to regain control. Over time, this habit becomes a habit. Emotional reactions become more thoughtful, decisions become more balanced, and conflicts become easier to manage. Developing emotional intelligence does not happen overnight. It grows gradually through repeated small choices, moments of reflection, moments of listening, moments of restraint. And with consistent practice, these habits begin reshaping behavior. Reactions become responses, impulses become thoughtful decisions, and emotional awareness becomes a powerful advantage in both personal and professional life. Mastering emotions. For a long time, emotions were misunderstood. People believed emotions were weaknesses, something to hide, something to suppress, something that interfered with rational thinking. But modern psychology reveals a very different truth. Emotions are not problems, they are signals. Signals about what matters to you, signals about your needs, signals about your relationships, signals about your priorities. Anger might signal a violated boundary. Fear might signal uncertainty or risk. Excitement might signal opportunity. And sadness might signal something meaningful that has been lost. When emotions are ignored, they often become stronger. They push for attention. But when emotions are understood, they become valuable information. This is the essence of emotional intelligence, not eliminating emotion, but learning to interpret it,
learning to guide it, learning to respond to it wisely. Because emotions influence nearly every aspect of life. They shape decisions, they influence communication, they determine how we respond to pressure, and they affect the quality of our relationships. When emotional intelligence is developed, decision making improves. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause, you analyze, you choose actions more carefully. Relationships also become stronger because understanding emotions improves communication. It allows you to connect with others on a deeper level. Trust becomes easier to build. Conflicts become easier to resolve. Emotional intelligence also strengthens resilience. Life inevitably brings challenges, stress, failure, unexpected setbacks. But emotionally intelligent individuals handle these experiences differently. They recognize their emotions, they process them, and they move forward with greater clarity. This ability creates stability during uncertainty and strength during adversity. Over time, emotional intelligence becomes one of the most powerful advantages a person can develop, not because it eliminates problems, but because it changes how those problems are handled. And in the end, the most powerful form of intelligence is not simply the ability to understand the world, it is the ability to understand yourself. Because when you truly understand your emotions, you gain control over your reactions, your relationships improve, your decisions become wiser, and your life becomes more intentional. Self-awareness becomes clarity, clarity becomes control, and control becomes freedom.